to the point like they already on game like with our data and shit, man. And I'm just seeing more and more like they just tossing our data everywhere. And like, you know what I'm saying, getting them extra coins and shit. I'm like, bruh, I need to chill. Cause there's like every website now you go to now that bro, they asking for the cookies, man. They asking for the cookies. You gonna give them the treats? Like, I'm like, dang, bro, get off my shit. And then it's like we gotta pay attention more to the terms and conditions now, cause like they throwing that updating more stuff like hot grease, like just throwing it on us, like.
Bro, I mean, it gets so worded that you can't even use your own basic music that you created without it being something connected to them.
Right.
So there'll still be a control over us.
Right.
Like I find it difficult sometimes, even getting up here doing lives, because they'll shut it down, saying that it's a bad feedback as far as my live, and I'm like, no, other time you do this. But when I start going on some political conversation, you regulate it.
Right.
Talking about bad service or bad connection. All right, come on.
Come on now.
Yeah.
You never do this, and now this year you're doing it.
They turning up.
Yo,
The whole last year it didn't even
my hoe
happen like
shaking
that.
her ass. They'll let her stay up there.
What do you say?
He said if it's a $2 hoe shaking ass, they gonna let us stay up there.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Because you're giving food for the brain, food for thought. They don't want that.
That's how you see that you're in an oppositional playing field. Then you have the brothers who I heard, even my sisters, they said they shut down their system. So you know that if we were to go extreme on them, they would still do another way of, shutting it off. You don't have to be indiscreet. It just be straight up. We make sure you don't get back up here.
Right.
So I know that we have to be an in-between in our conversations in order for us to still have our conversation.
Right.
I'm cool with it though. We still present.
Still present. We better be so present. We better switch over to the Instagram live. Let's go. You ready, bro?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. My boy E, man. Came a long way. Should title this. It's too late, huh? Get this shit going. Waiting for my boy E. Then we're gonna tap in. Boy, Yusuf, what it is, man? What it is, man?
Perfumes all day long.
All day.
Even when you're done, you're not done.
24.
Even when we're done, we're not done.
What's good, Lex? Going in. Yeah, peace, brother. Y'all, this is the third I-5 Just Survive Mobile Enrichment. Get into it. You know what I'm saying? We got useful too, background vibing. Yeah, getting the oars ready. We oiling up. So let's get to it, man. We ain't even gonna waste no more time with these people, man. So what we want to get at is how we bring in the goddess back to the forefront, ladies and gentlemen. Bringing that balance, that harmony back into life, so we can transition with all the chaotic things that's going on, that's occurring. And we wondering why it's being like that, because shit is not balanced. It's not balanced. And where it all started at, man, woman, child.
That's right.
And bringing all that together to create that tribe. That's a bar. But we're gonna get more into it. We're gonna let you start it off more. What's your take, man? What you think about what I just said?
No, you are dropping the first science, as we know, like to give before we even get into it, the homage to the ancestors, the mothers, the fathers, the uncles, the aunts, the nieces, the nephews, the sons, the daughters, the grandmothers, the great grandmothers, long distant cousins, long distant relatives. When we look at how you said the beginning state, you know what I'm saying, it gives us that knowing that we do say amen, but not knowing what Ra or Ray is. So
talk to him.
To give that feminine masculine approach is the balance there. You know, we have to step into us as being men to the woman who gave us the light. You know what I'm saying? If you look at Statue of Liberty, she holds the light in her hand. Yet that's the newer version. The older version is the light was her son in her arms. Look at Da Vinci Code. If you haven't, go back to Da Vinci Code. Look at it from the beginning, right? They're gonna show you their part, and then they're gonna show you our part, even though we might not even be in the movie. So the whole analogy between mother, the father, and the child, the analogy always starts off with the mother and the child before the father. And that's just like real talk for a lot of the heads that's been wanting to walk this walk and don't know how to talk the talk.
Right.
There's the Shabaka Stone. If you haven't got this book, gravitate towards it.
That was heavy right there.
Yeah, Spirituality Before Religion. That's his first book that he created. This is the second one. Professor Kaba, who breaks down the analogy on our science that, you know, we have, the Homo sapio. And because we've heard of Homo sapien, we probably didn't go any further into research, you know what I'm saying? And that's why we do definitely have to look at on a diaspora scale, just like from us, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could look at my body and I can see that I got a belly button and nipples, but I don't do nothing with them. You know what I'm saying? I don't even touch them like I see others. You know what I'm saying? So it explains that we are the deformed woman. You know what I mean? And we just have to accept that first. So our ego don't, go way out there and say, oh, well, women is nothing but something that tills the earth. You know what I'm saying? And I actually read that in this one. It's The Secret of the Golden Flower. And if you notice, he's carrying the concept of a lotus in his hands. And in that lotus, you see a being in the middle of that. So we see that through religion, some of us decided to have a child into the word of religion, which is our spirituality. What I found out is, he said, deformed woman. The way we look at, let's say, in the Da Vinci Code, they showed Mona Lisa in there, and they actually had half man, half woman, and they're showing that in this movie, they might go around it on a murder. Yet at the same time, if you go into it, Tom Hanks is the decoder, and basically he finds out symbols. He learns symbols, and all of us are in tune with symbols. And symbols, you get sigils. So just like symbols and sigils, it's not just a duality. It's always been a trinity. And so when we found out that there's ways to learn yourself, like I was saying, deformed man, it's not no diss to any men. It's just the idea that, you came from a woman and you started out as a woman. As in this day, you started off with feminine body parts. That's what I was saying as far as the nipples, as far as the belly button. Even if you was to think where the yoni is at, which most people call it, the P word, we have a P word as well. But the P word is not the P word that was written. It's called phallus.
Phallus.
Yeah. So they made the pen is mightier than the sword. So this is the whole reason why we know that it was a womb as a whole, and then it connected as a pole. And that's where this book really gives insight to the poles of ourselves and how we're, learning. We should be learning enlightenment. Enlightenment is within. So just like to say that a lot of pictures, a lot of symbols or sigils give back the inclination that, mama had to govern you, and mama had to govern you by holding you in her arms and basically giving you breast milk. Not only evolved, I'm gonna say adapted from woman, because we had a womb first. It was all womb in the first trimester. Then on that second trimester, we decided to say, I'm gonna be a boy, and now that womb closed and became a pole. That line is still there. You can look at every man you probably had intercourse with. You're gonna find out there's a line there, and the doctor did not put that line. The same way, see how my hands are open and now closed? That's like saying that's the line that every man has on their phallus. And so this is another way of saying, like the lotus, when it came out of the earth, it came out like a phallus, but then it opened up like a womb. So now we see that there's different analogies to look at. Yeah, I never stated that women can't have a baby on their own. It would have to be through the epigenetic gene carrying. That's why we still know that woman carries the DNA for us. And this is the other thing about explaining the breast milk. You know what I'm saying? Like, that breast milk oxytocin is important. Without that, like I was saying to my brother, I said, this time frame we're working on gratefulness. How are we grateful of where we at now? Like, I know a lot of people say, I'm thankful for Thanksgiving. But what makes you grateful before you even thought of Thanksgiving? Because Sachagawea is the same analogy story about Pocahontas. And if we thought lesser of the woman, we would even do this in a play of how we're saying we're thankful for Thanksgiving, because your child or your woman was basically passed on to the next tribe, and that was to prevent a war, quote unquote. And so you can see this is another analogy, as you're seeing here. There's the idea of a snake or a dragon on the outside scale.
Let's talk about that. How come throughout different ancient civilizations, and like you always seeing the snake, like through the Egyptians, India, all in the flags, and Palestinians, and the Mexicans and all that. What is the take on this the snake, the serpent, how they play a part in life? Because it's like
there's this spine in your back that, just like how we find out about Jesus at 13, and then, or should I say 12, and then 13 to 31 to 33. The spine represents these degrees. So as a snake that's without a spine is basically swivels, or the way it moves is up, left and right. That's right. And you find out as the sister spoke and speaking, is basically traveling off the earth. So as this is a connection, you're seeing that what you know of Moses, he had the same thing as the snake that supposed to came out and did the swivel like an S. And the S is basically like this, a zigzag, or an S shape. If you think of that, that's symbolic, very symbolic to the feminine as a signal or a sign, as a wave to the man, which is a sign. The sign is basically straight. So when you usually see snakes, they're put on a pole, like the caduceus is put on a pole. What they call it, the Asclepius is basically the ma'at, the balance. They're showing these two snakes going around each other, and then finally they meet up at the top. Even the Persians, every group basically had an inclination of the other group, and this is how we found out East learned it West, and there's no separation from East and West. So we go into the snake. The snake represented Kundalini, your awakening state. So you'll have a snake that might just be on the ground, and then you have a snake that might be sitting up, and then you might have a snake that's going around in a circle biting into itself, which they call that the Ouroboros. So you have
the Ouroboros.
Yeah, the Ouroboros.
Where's that origin out of? Like, what's that origin?
It's Kemet. It's still Kemet. Kemet, and so we learned Kemet is also our Kushites. So Kushite and Kemites, they're on the same connection. And when we found the snake biting into itself, it was basically a yoga pose, like grabbing your feet. You know what I'm saying? And then they also showed another one where he's basically sucking his own private part. You're like, whoa, why are you doing that?
Right.
But it's like, man, basically, you love yourself so much that you would touch your most intimate part. You know what I'm saying? And they go in the waters. But yeah, you're right. Do you have, like what she's saying now, the snake that is in the water is called a hydra or a hydra. And in that idea, you get the dragonfly. If you never noticed, the dragonfly, its wings are able to project air in a dimensional movement because of the water in its wings. So it's a point of balance, as the sister said, good and bad. So it's a point of balance, just like how you would think of the Komodo dragon. These indications are from a snake to a dragon. And if we don't notice, Medusa's hair is snakes. You know what I'm saying? So it was the idea that it's still a form of awakening. If you ever saw a pharaoh with it on the head, see, like biting one time is like poison, but biting twice is the antidote. So if one who had a snake on the head, basically saying that they had faced death. You know what I mean? So, but if they had a snake in the vulture, that's like saying they had faced death, and now they went to death. Now they are awakening from death, which is the vulture aspect. Like the vulture actually eats the bacteria on the earth. So if you would think of it in a reversal level, just like man and woman, they could indicate woman is her feminine side, but the snakes on Medusa's head is masculine. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's curved and it's doing all of that. But the bite itself would be masculine. So the same thing in reverse with the vulture. The vulture is a feminine, even though it's giving back life. Once it's given, let's say that bacteria, once it eats it and passes it on to the baby, it gives back life. So that's like a form of saying I'm a protector, which is the masculine side, as a nurturer would be still being the feminine. So we get nature or Mother Nature out of the actual vulture. So that's another way of seeing symbols, like I was saying about the Da Vinci Code, that gives you more all of that. Why is it all symbols in the first place?
Shit. Hold on. What's the question?
Eternal said Netter is Mother Nature. Is that what he was saying?
Yeah.
Mother Nature. Mother Nature, which they call it Neb Nature. So Mother Nature happens to be like what we were just saying, the feminine and the learning how it's masculine.
What Netter, Mother Nature.
Yeah. Medu Nature.
Medu Nature.
Or Medu Nature. Yeah,
So Harry covered on this.
And that goes into Asherah.
Yes. Asherah is another analogy of, it's just like saying in Kemet they have Tarawet. Tarawet is the hippopotamus with the crocodile on her back. So the snake, just like the crocodile or alligator, they both represent, your reptilian side, your kundalini, your back, and how you tap back into it. So Sebek, S-O-B-E-K, Sebek would be another symbol of like to devour your aggression, devour your guilt. And so these were used as a point of, all right, so like let's say there's a god, right, or a deity, and then there's a lesser deity, or what they call it, a jealous god. And then in between that, there's the animal. So the animal will be like on its plain state before you reach hell. The hell that you can be reaching has a pole to it, heaven or hell. And so there's where the human form is at. So all these realms that we basically tap into are like subjective realms. And we're like sitting here in between all of them to learn them. So as a snake, one who doesn't have a spine, spineless, can be reminded of this. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at spiritual totems, right, you'll find out that each, like a pig or a rooster, they all have a symbolic connection to how we've been living after Earth, but with personification to it. So like a lot of people might be unaware of how we have spiritual guides. And so just like to say, you might have been walking around on this earth and majority of the time you're always hearing a rooster, but you never, put the two together. So that's when you get spiritual guiders or spiritual guides to help you align that. So that way you won't have to keep on we call it the repetitive wheel, because Harry Potter's wheel, the Amun is connected to Mut, which we were just talking about, the vulture. That's the consort to that connection. So Amun, he's the one who created out of the sand, out of the clay, out of the dirt of the earth, the connection of our physical being. So one who's now on the ground, just like, let's think of a snake being like a baby. So one is like a baby, now got to stand on all fours, and now standing on all fours or sitting on all, moving on all fours would be their hands and their knees, or the part to the knee to the leg, the lower part of the leg, which makes it to a point where you have to stand up, and now your stance and your stand is another indication to your higher self. And so you have a higher self, a lower self, and then this is what usually gets misplaced is the mid self, and that's why the third realm is right here. Like, we on the green stage. We on the idea of you're in the middle of everything from a sunlight to the green grass that grows on the earth. And if we're more in tune with it, you know what I'm saying, that hell that we're calling it can be heaven, which most people think about it. Hell is something you can throw out. Like I can hail it out, you know what I mean? Like it's snow. So just like with something good, as the sister said, it could be bad. Hell could be hot, hell could be cold. So now the idea of hell, am I hell like the actual, nature being unnatural to your body? Or am I actually giving a praise to someone? You know what I'm saying? Like, hell, Haile Selassie. You know what I mean? Like that. So, this word is not only a word, it's a name. It's a Amen. And we say Amen, it's just like our moon is hidden. So if we look at it, Amen is name. So name could be Helen, not just Helen, Helen. So there is the consort to Julius Caesar is Helen. That's how you get masculine and feminine on a different approach. Without the child being involved, we're now the children. So the children of the sun is us. We're all like walking around here not knowing if we're doing the right or doing the wrong or doing the left or doing the right.
The nine ether beings.
There you go. Come on. But now you gotta look at the analogy. It's more like you can be intelligent acting dumb, but yet you can't be dumb acting intelligent. You have to actually become that. You actually have to. It's like the form of you acting. You can't really become it unless you go through the action of it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. You can't become it unless you go through the actions of it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's taking action.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why they actually do the action. Yet it's not really action, it's acting that they have people do. So they give you a backwards way of looking at things, saying that you're going forward. That's why you notice a lot of Ras, when they're in the Ras level of Rasta, they don't talk backwards. They don't talk past to say past. You know what I'm saying? They'll actually stay going forward. So that's why the whole idea of liquor more, when you say liquor more, you're saying like forward, like I'll see you later, or, we're going forward into time. So there's another way of embracing your present and your near present. Because of course we can't say future yet because it's not really here yet.
Factual.
That's just gratitude though, because you know what I'm saying, like I was saying beforehand, we're finding ungrateful people in front of us. Like let's say you go to the store and you got your amount in your hand, and the person that's in front of you, they're like not being grateful for present, right? So you want to say something to them, you might say greetings, how you doing, or something, and they kind of like telling you what the price is. They're not actually reading into your conversation. So it's a point of how much friendly business do you really accept before you pass on your own energy. You know what I mean? I usually want to say it a little bit more into an emphasis to let them know I'm recognizing you behind the counter, right? Then there's some of us that say, oh, okay, my bad, I won't look in, or, you know what I mean? So then they kind of become present. But then there's some that don't want to, interact with you, so they're just like, it's $25. They're like, okay, well, I can't force someone to become present. That's just what it is. This is where the dictatorship and the levels like we think of, and no disrespect to any Persians out there, yet this was also one of those influences, how Persia had an influence in Hinduism, which they call Hinduism, and made it more of a direct, if you follow these lines or your head is cut off concept. So you find a lot of the capitalism and communism being put to this ungrateful side to what we look at in our own reality and how we're supposed to have basically mannerism. That's basically all it is. It's just you having manners enough to say, greetings back to the person that's you're just being reciprocal. So you're able to say, okay, greetings, hey, how you doing? And then going on to the business. And then there's the other thing where, and I could blame COVID or sicknesses or whatever you want to put this on. It's this outside idea that, if you get contact by somebody, it's like getting the cooties.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of them putting it in your hand, they kind of put it like your hand, like say your hand was under theirs, and they get ready to drop the money in your hand, but they don't want to make contact, so they put their hand way up here and drop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me is like very unprofessional, because now I could drop it, and now it's all over the place, and now I'm looking at you like, you gonna pick it up? Or
I know that's how that be at work, y'all.
I'm just saying, it just let us know we're not present. We gotta still become awakened towards each other to move on this enlightenment that we speak of. And because of religion, it can put a halter on that. You know what I mean? To where I put a mask on my face. And I was saying that beforehand. I said, if everybody's putting a mask on their face, do we wait for Jesus to come in with a mask on his face? Because you're not going to accept Jesus, right? Or you're going to accept Jesus, but you don't have to wear a mask. You're going to exclude him from wearing a mask. It's a lot of, are we really looking within ourselves before we say, I'm looking out? You know what I mean? Because the shelterless person can be Jesus. And you just walk right by him. The person that's in front of you giving you the $25 could be Jesus. And we're just not looking at it in that aspect. Yahshua, Yahweh, Krishna, there are all these names. Buddha, Shiva, Brahma. They got different Haru, you know what I'm saying? They got different ways that it's not just one indication. They're all over the place that we look at. These lights, these oil lamps are a representation of man. Let's just say the sun is the invitational sunlight, is the light that we use to carry for each other. The light that usually is in the lantern, so you can see better, you can see brighter. You know what I mean? And just like I had a brother put a camera on me. He was like, "Yo, you got this bright light on you." He took a picture and he couldn't see it after he took the picture. He was like, "Man, this is trippy," because every time he took the picture, that bright light will dim down. And I was telling him that it's something about ourselves that we it's basically our aura is within us so strong that once you become genuine to yourself, you know what I mean? Like no one's gonna really judge you, but you judging yourself, right?
Right.
And so it's to a point where you are those two snakes, the left and the right, that's talking to you, the good and the bad, the devil and the God aspect. So when you're in the middle of a situation, this is your aura kicking in the most, you know what I'm saying, to either have you ride left or right or find your middle. And usually you find out that the midstream will be a better stream versus the left or the right, because there's three lefts and just as much as there are three rights.
So the snake, right? The what's it called? A peppy, APEP.
Oh,
a pep, yeah. A pep.
Or a peppy. A peppy would be like how set becomes seti, but becoming peppy is like an enlightened or an awakened, the awakened one, like the cobra. The cobra would be another symbolic connection, because now it's not a regular snake. It's not like a garden snake. It's the actual one that went on to its higher level of, like, yes, it has venom in it. However, it's not gonna bite everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna just waste my bite. You know what I'm saying? So it's the whole idea that a pep within the body is your bowel system. You you have the large intestines and the small intestines, and so your small intestines basically you're going to take care of what the large intestines already took care of in a way. The large intestines, because it's breaking down food, it has to break down the large stuff and then put it into the smaller component. And once that happens, that's where, you know what I mean, a pep is now a part of the action. Every body part basically has a comedic deity in it, just like it has any of the gods or orishas or however you want to call it, the higher and this lower self. What a pep would be is like your bowel system. So what we said about Moses had a staff, or the same thing as Anpu, which we know as Anubis. He has also a staff, and that's to the underworld. So
Anubis.
Let's say Anpu is symbolic as the Scorpio, which is like the snake. And so between let's say Set, or let's go into Het Haru. Het Haru would be your stomach, and Aset is all that same connection to where Aset, from Aset to learning Anpu would be the son of Set. So the Set would be actually the twin to Aset. Notice the word is always going to be kind of familiar, so you get familiar with it. AU represents gold. Aset is like the connection to your gold energy, but that's in your stomach. Like you can, like they say, man, like you whatever came out of you look like gold nuggets. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't really rich. They ain't gonna want it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. At the same time, the nuggets, if it's not whole like a snake, like the actual bondage of a snake, is basically saying you do have some issues going on in the stomach, which is constipation. So with Anpu with the staff, he basically is fighting the snake, but he's not really fighting it per se. It's metaphorically speaking that he's getting the toxin out of your body as he's on the boat. If you ever see it, it's a boat that he's on, and Haru is up there, Anpu is up there, and
Is it Ra too?
Yeah. And basically Ra is a manifestation to show how this all exists in the first place. Ra is the creation out of Sekhmet and Ptah. So if you know Ptah represents your path. Sekhmet represents like the ending of the sunlight, get ready to start back up in Beset. And then you got Mahesh, and Mahesh is in between, which is a high noon. That's also known as the three cats. These three cats in the Buddhism is known as like the three fires that could be poisonous to the body if you know how to deal with your fires at a certain temperature. If not, you got the thyroid, the thalamus, and you also have in the groin area, the urinary or the prostate end up being cancer. So this is why these things happen. So it's basically about using the hydration, right? Like a snake, drinking the water to help the snake tunnel out. Now, if you notice, just like plumbing is the same thing. You use a snake if your pipes are clogged. So these are all familiarizations.
Wow.
These are all just like Da Vinci Code,
Crazy.
ways to find yourself again.
That's great.
So if you think about it, Anpu, he's a helper, and he's not as evil as one would think.
Pipes are clogged. Is that what he said?
The man's best friend is the dog, but the dog is the
Eturnal, I
God.
love you, bro.
I give thanks, brother.
Bro. That's the enema right there, bro. The snake.
That's it. That's the enemy.
That's it.
The enemy, but his enemy. Yeah, it's enemy. It's enemy. But once you clear yourself out, your constipation, your concentration, they all basically a point of how you get into the aspect of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Your wisdom comes from your meditation. So the easier person to meditate, meaning that their central nervous system is not out of whack, which most people will call it the endocrine, or the lymphatic tissues, the glands. If any of those glands are at a high peak, like the thyroid, like the thalamus, they're gonna go on an alarm. They're gonna be like waking you up at night. They're gonna give you heartburn. They're gonna give you, you know what I'm saying, constipational issues, but they're burning down there kind of thing. And you're gonna have a head burn, but a head burn would be known as a headache. So these are the ways that you basically have alarms. All arm, Allah, alien, alun. It's an illusion in itself. However, through these names, you see that they're speaking to you. The Allah that some of us might not know is the daughter to the Allah, or the Allahumma. Allahumma would be like a lot of the variations of deities. Not saying there's one, there's many of the one. So with that being the case, 144, like 1,000 of our body parts, is 12 times 12. When you learn that, it's basically saying through your 12 meridians, you have the Allah, arm, leg, arm, head, senses. And through your senses, you find your 7 chakras, or your 7 Shakti, your 7 dimensions, and how it spreads out. The 7 dimensions are from your head. Now, notice if your head is straight and your body is stiff, you are able to meditate better. Now, of course, there's different forms of meditation, just that this one gets you to, like, basically project self. Like, we talking about astral projecting and things like that. Levitation, telekinesis, telepathic, all this comes from that. Why? Because we're talking about the 7 holes: your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your mouth. We call it fire, earth, air, and rain. So once you're in the basic 4, your fear, fire, earth, air, rain, you can attach this fear to the other fear, which is your heart, fire, the earth, where your belly starts to digest the food, the air, as it breaks down the food, it goes back to the back tail spine and go up into that. We're talking about the backside. So now it opens the 4 basically hemispheres of the brain that most people say there's just 2. The 2 is because they're saying it's masculine and feminine. Yet out of that, we were speaking good and bad, which is like basically saying there's a left and a right, or up and a down. So that's how your hemisphere of the brain starts to tap in, learning that you're not out of 4, but that's because that's just like a chair. When you sit on it, you become a 5. So this is the same way as your hands being implicated with 5 fingers versus 4. Cartoons basically start out with 4 fingers. So you know that that's a basic. Teach somebody fear, yet they put fear plus God. They didn't just put fear. Now that God, like I said before, God in reverse is dog. So if you don't know your canine ability, you just basically being a dog and dogging out things. So that first awakening out of your hell, or out of the human to hell, you're gonna, with the animal, not just being an animal without knowing you have a conscience to your animal. So that's why the spiritual animal, the spiritual totems, always to say you got a patah, which is the path, or the father, right? F-A-R-T-H-E-R is the father. And so there's been ways that some of us got misinterpreted on how we've been looking at farther out, but not calling out that connection to the father. The father is your patah, and patah is like when we say ka-patah, carpenter. So the names got changed, just like pattern. Pattern is Peter, but Peter represents patah. Your pet represents patah. That's what I was saying as far as animals. you are learning from your peta. So the more you slow it down, symbolize the residuals that's coming out of it, it'll make you more confident, and not just confident, competent to learn that you are learning from yourself. That's why Aztechnology is not just from Aztec, but it is how you've been teching or texting it from the scroll of your phone. So, you're actually putting spells on an imaginary device that, let's say 20 years back, you wasn't working on this before. So now that you're doing that, look at majority of society. They use this thing that they call a phone, even though ET was out before this phone. And it was showing you how to phone home the whole time. Even though that in itself, you could look at the ET as an Android. We still got an Android to show us, just like the iPhone, that there is the AI. As my brother was speaking on it, we were talking about Small Wonder. Small Wonder is a little series, American. Now you can give it a name, American series. I said American. What is American about this? But yeah, they call it an Americanized series that came out in the 80s. Small Wonder, and it was about an android, and even AI is an actual movie. I remember it. I just forgot about it, but when he brought it up, I looked it up, and I said, "Dang, that's true. We've been with the robot ever since." And so to go all the way around to make it still a cipher to what we're talking about, our mothers, if they are not waking up to what we're talking about, the year of the dragon is coming out. And the year of the dragon is the fire dragon. Right now, it's the wood rabbit, which I'm the wood rabbit. And I didn't notice these things until I went further into the animals. Not just saying Western. Western has to meet Eastern, so that you know what are you paralleling with. If you was to be a good or if you was to be a bad, where's your middle at? And so, if we're going into the year of the dragon, and the dragon is a fire, are we giving ourselves heartburn next year? You know what I'm saying? Or are we fixing the poisons that we done put in our heart, our head, and our hips? And these are the things that you got to slow down. Don't go so fast to like only fools rush in. You know what I'm saying? Wise will take their time. And if it was a wise thing, you would leave everything.
Yeah.
That's confirmation from my water bottle. That's me. But there's the water dragon. So we know that spiritual starts from the water and the fire. There's waterman, there's fireman, just like there's mermaid. I'm glad you brought that up too, because the mermaid is another connection to your snake in water as a woman. And her name is Mami Wata, M-A-M-I, which they call it in a different way, Mammy. That's how she became a part of the nursing in our families. That's why she became a nanny. The Mammy became a nanny. So back to the Mechanica. Mechanica was a feminine energy, but it was there to help the woman, not to help the man, because, like I said, we might be the degenerated connection to the woman, yet we were the muscles for the woman. So when it came down to her not being able to pick this up, it was too heavy, she had you. Or for her to strategize how to put this through a room, she had you. And I'm not saying she couldn't do that on her own. Sometimes it comes down to it, she might have to take care of the children, and she just did not put that effort in it. And so she had to have another connection. And so that was the whole idea, to make the connection a part of learning both sides. Like, woman has 90% of the child, while man has 10% of that child involvement. And we would say, well then let the man hold the baby for the second 9 months. You know what I'm saying? Or second trimester, I mean. Because if you think about it, the idea of half and half, we said, man and woman, we 50-50, or you gotta give 100 and she gotta give 100, or something like that. I don't know where they came up with these numbers yet, that was to put us in a category or to classify each other so that you think lesser of, this divine that we're all connected to.
Facts.
And it's just a point to where, you got to start saying, like being grateful. I noticed that even for, and I know they tend to be rough. Women do tend to be rough just like men tend to be rough. I just noticed that when it comes to the child and the child involvement, we got to, at least if she's not showing it to the child, we got to get a more direct approach to the child to say, thank you, and you put the hand out there. You know how you want to touch a dog, and I'm not saying these are two the same other comparisons. I'm just saying how it can match up. You know how you try to put your hand on top of the dog and the dog back up because the dog's like, I don't know you. You're like, come on, let me touch it. You got to actually put your hand out and let the dog sniff your hand. You got to actually, it's like kind of like having a bowing thing towards the animal. Now, the whole idea is the animal could bite your hand. However, you trust yourself enough to know that the dog is not going to bite you because you wouldn't put your hand out there like that.
Right.
So it's the same way with this child. You got to put it in your mind to say, in your imagination, this child's going to give me this penny. Even though I know this child want this penny, if I say thank you and put my hand in front of her or him, he just might give me the penny. It just depends on how much he's willing to be himself while he's still learning from his mother. You know what I mean? And that attachment that we have, or she has, also, to sometimes come into that non-attachment, because they're not going to run out the room, right, unless you chase them. So it's not the idea of saying, give me that. That's not yours. Don't get mad. Don't get frustrated. And that's where the discipline right now we having in this time frame. Because if you notice, trick-or-treating came in, right? Yeah, I went there. Trick-or-treating came in, and they gave the children candy. And now they wonder why their children are dysfunctional. But this is the Hansel and Gretel routine. This is the idea that now I want to run away from mom and dad because they ain't nice like these people are. Yet the word nice is foolish. So if you're giving someone a treat, that's like a dog. If you're giving someone a treat, that's not a cure. That's not even a symptom. That's a treat. It's like a dog. Dog gets treats. So even the symptom ain't good. We got to give our family, our people, cures to our curation of life. So symbolically, they need more or less the profound way of you looking at truth. Not saying this is the truth, because it might be your truth. It might not be theirs.
Yeah.
In the separational game, like, I have a child, you don't have a child, so don't talk to my child like that. Like, whoa. Where's that come from? You know what I'm saying? And it happens.
That's how that shit feet.
Yeah, we want to protect the child so much that we're protecting the lesson, the life lesson. And we need that life lesson still amongst, even in the village. We have to have village brothers. We have to have village sisters. We have to have village mothers, village fathers, village grandmothers.
We need more, man.
Village grandfathers. This what kept the indication of why do they have Ganesh? It's an elephant, the same symbolic of Haru. The head was cut off, and then there was an elephant head put on to say, don't forget. Just like the eye taken out of Haru, because, he might have had caught up in some emotion, and the mother said, I said do this, and you ain't do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now it's the whole idea that compassion versus just passion. You know what I'm saying? And that comes from, just like the elephant will take care of the cubs that's not even his or hers, when they see him at the water, getting the water, and some jackals or some hyenas coming up to kill the cub because the father or the mother ain't around, that elephant will like, get away, move, get out of here. You know what I mean? So it's a part of the elephant represents a protector. You know what I'm saying? Like this elephant right here. The elephant represents a protector. And we can't ever put down something that's greater than you unless you're thinking that you're a part of that put down, because that's the only way it's going to end up being a realization for one who's learning from that life lesson.
So look, right, what do you think can what could we all do now to bring balance into what's going on now in reality now? What is the, 'cause obviously there's imbalance. You know what I'm saying? And then when there's imbalance, it's not only just a separation thing. It's like it could be inside too.
Okay, so what I got out of that was there's a sense of external existence, right? And out of that, there's the loss of fear of death, right? Because just like what I've been learning, I just watched Da Vinci Code, and that's all they were saying right in the beginning. They said, this is a matter of life and death. I said, man, they didn't show me everything I already know. So, and it just so happened I just was reading in 2 different books, and it still came out the same way. Then there's moral exhaustion. Sometimes we go from moral, right, and not know the ethnics behind it. So that's why moral deals with the philosophical, the philosophia, the philosophia, this masculine and the feminine, basically learning how to get the balance between the two, right? And there's the intellectual illumination. There's also the sudden instant, the increase of mental awareness. When this kicks in, bro, this is like saying knowledge is now having a rainbow bend, and now it's becoming wisdom. Then there's the prophetic stimulation of the personal aura, which is your charm. Now, I said to someone before, there's a difference between in the Magi, right? Magi represents image, Magi. See how I put that together?
Right.
So imagination is your magic. You're using it all the time. You just don't call it out like that. So now
You said your Magi?
Yeah, your Magi, M-A-G-I.
Is your imagination.
Yeah. That's why everybody's a magus. A magus, magic, they are magicians. So spiritual transmutation. Now, transmutation is going from transferring from one to another. Not saying it depleted itself, because you still got more to transform versus transmute. Hear the word mut in there. Being able to define your deities is one thing. Being able to become a musician is another. Picking up an instrument, not looking at it as a weapon as soon as you get it and then you start weaponizing yourself. What I found out is, soon as someone start to use it as a weapon, they end up being taken from them like it was a toy. And so there's the reason why a lot of us, when we wake up on this third going into the fifth, like we lay down and get back up, some of us want the $5,000 and they woke up, they don't have the $5,000 in their hand, like what the it's actually there. You're calling on the physical too fast. You want the instant gratification. If we notice that, just like I said, with the sudden, instant, increased mental awareness, if you do certain things, it's going to kick in that as such. All right. So basically, sense of external existence is like anybody. I like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. Like anybody, I'd like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. Loss of fear of death. But I'm not concerned about that now. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. That's the idea of loss of fear of death. Moral exhaustion. I want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountains. Intellectual illumination. I look over and I've seen the promised land. This is basically, you know where I'm getting this from. Sudden instant increased mental awareness. I may not get there with you. You know what I'm talking about so far?
Nah.
Dr. King. Prophetic stimulation of the personal aura, charm. But I want you to know tonight that we as people will get to the promised land. Spiritual transmutation. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord and all. This is basically how you can see people are already in it. They're just unaware of it as they're going through it. So now, what makes it a point of, let's say, how do we work with what I was just speaking on? It comes from your being. You know, you got one where you're being it, yet it's the other part, you become it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, I had a sister, she was talking to me, and I wanted to give her some enlightenment, and it was hard for me to really break it down to her without her wanting to cut it and destroy it right quick. So it's just like this. Your Trinity is the initiated process of becoming from the non-being to an actual being. Before the beginning to the after. The unconscious to the awakening of thought. Your reasoning, your language. And that's all I was basically doing with her the whole entire time. Looking at how I could reason with her without her cutting it up, chopping it up, throwing it to the side. I've been there, I did that. That don't work. Like, whoa. Are you present? Are you present with these thoughts? You know what I'm saying? And if you can at least become present, this will help what we're going through right now in today's society. Because, like I said earlier, some of us are not present. You'll be in a room with this person, and I've noticed that on the light rail. I'll be up there, and there's probably like 20 people up there, and I'm probably like the only one reading. Or it might be 2 people, another one sleeping. Or it might be out of the 3 people, no one just looking out the window. There's nothing wrong with these other indications. It's just that we all get nailed to this phone, and then we're not present because we're somewhere else in some other level of that. When you could be present, the phone don't have to make you present. So just like sitting at the table, I noticed that it was hard for us that once the TV dinners got pushed out, you know them TV dinner commercials?
Mm-hmm.
Once
Shit
the
used
TV
to
dinner
bust my nigga.
commercials they got you to look at the TV. So now you sit there and become present. Now ain't nothing wrong with that either. It's just that you gotta have some conversation with each other. You gotta like, well, what did you just see? Or pause it for a second just to see if everybody on the same according. Because sometimes we stray away and then we forget what the message was. And then the message don't even get put there, even though it was put there.
Right.
Like I said, I watched Da Vinci Code, and the beginning of that joint, they talked about symbols. They showed a symbol looking like a Da Vinci, looking like the Nazi symbol. And they said, that's the Nazi symbol. And he was like, and then he showed the robe that they were wearing. They said, oh, that's KKK. And he was like, no, that's them wearing the priesthood. I said, wow. And it's Masonic. I just was like, okay, I see what they're doing. They didn't, but they're giving it to us. And then it was like another symbol. They were showing the child getting the breast milk. I said, wow, they do this in here too? It happened so fast. I remember seeing Da Vinci Code. I don't even remember that part at all. But that was like at the beginning of the whole movie. So to have an introduction to Tom Hanks coming in as somebody who's talking about symbols, he's showing the mother giving breast milk to the child, and he said that's Horus, and I said, as Isis, and so it's there for us to get our life lessons if we're present. Is the more that we are, feeling like my brother said. He said we feel that our mind is so egotistical that our past. We're so, into ourselves that we can't be present with the other person while it's happening. And that's what makes it a point of why people call other people evil.
Because you're not
So
present.
it's just the expression of not creating evil towards each other. You know what I mean?
So
That
like,
seems like it's easier. You know what I'm saying? It's easier to yourself to think you can make something evil to somebody else, but it might be a code that you're saying to yourself.
so like with meditation, right? What's your go-to when it comes to meditation? Or let's put it like this. What? Cause yeah, I'm gonna make it a little difficult for you. What? How could we coexist like meditation and prayer, or meditation is like a prayer, or like what you think is needed all around? Because I'm like hearing this one thing like praying and actually commanding something is like different in a way. Is it?
Yeah, there's. Okay, so just like how we think that we make affirmations is a form of the prayer, just but without knowing. So some of us say please and begging, and that's called pleading. If you notice in jail, before you go to jail, some of these people actually plead to the judge. The judge don't not send you away because you pleading to him some please. That's not pleading. That's called begging. So we find out that some of us in our prayers, we're begging, and that's not your intent to beg on the Most High is not going to give you anything for that. You know what I'm saying? It's like the idea that you already have it. So if anything, you are an affirmant of that. So you make, just like how Malcolm X said, by any means necessary, he was making that an affirmation, by any means. So us as ourselves, we have to make that interpretation. That interpretation is your form of a chant. Now, if you chant it, if you sing it, these things elongate the tongue. Americanized version of conversations is usually based on a flat tongue conversation. So we got to actually elongate the conversation. That's where this form of meditation comes from. Even if you don't speak at all, it's a form of meditation. Your idea of being still for 30 minutes, you know what I'm saying, at least. I know some of us can't take it, so we have to do 10 or 15. Well, work your way up from that 10 or 15 to get to that 30. Don't make it, once I'm at 30, I'm good. I don't need no more. No, find out if you can make it an hour or 2 hours, or find out if you sit in this one position, how long you can do it. And then find out different positions that you can do. Because what you find out is meditation is a form of yoga. And I know most people say, well, I ain't into that either. Well, if you look at it, a lot of the yogis that did these, or gurus, are very limber. Your way of living is not to be cramped up. Some of us are walking around stiff-necked, and that's the problem. Yeah, it's a major problem. Like, we're calling it religion, right? Yet, the religion didn't make you stiff-necked. You made yourself stiff-necked because of the religion. That's just like a gun. The gun didn't kill anybody. It's the people who grab the gun, put the bullets in it, and then shoot all over the place. So now it's your intent. How much intent do you have to sit there and be humble for those amount of, because really those minutes are seconds. We counted it by seconds, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that same indication, this is like saying, when did you come into birth? And your birth is also in those seconds. And those seconds is also connected to time and also connected to space. So you have to give yourself your three bodies that you got, your head, your heart, and your hips. You got to have that physical, spiritual, and mental inclination to how you're going to go on to the next chapter. How you going to feel the night from the day and the day from the night. Because, day, it can be lettered D-E-Y as well as it can be D-A-Y. So this might be a nationality that you've been playing on yourself the whole time. Why not call it a creation? Come up with your imagination in this meditation, not just prayer. Because if you were praying, just like an animal can prey on another animal. So that's why the word P-R-E-Y can be also P-R-A-Y. So it's just learning how to find some chance, even for how you say your name. Like, give me your name, bro.
Raekwon.
So, sing it this time.
Raekwon. Oh, Raekwon.
No, that's like you chopped it. Let's
Raekwon. Oh, like that.
Do it like that.
Raekwon.
Now that's gonna build you up. Now the more you do that, the more you're gonna feel the build up of your name. If you don't feel your name, your body don't feel your name. So it's like you speaking to the outside world, but your inside world need help just as much. That's why the word name is the same as Amen. The name Adam is Atum. There's different Adams, Adamites, you know what I mean? So Adum or Adam, we could dumb ourselves with the energy. We could dumb ourselves down by the senses, the 5 senses that can be now 7. Your hearing, your tasting, your touching, your smelling is a part of how you're feeling. So you have to feel your empathy and your sympathy in order to, create the umph in you. So the alive side of yourself can kick in. I would recommend, if you're a person that get up at night, right? You go use the restroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever did that in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
All right, so after you use the restroom, you get ready to go lay back down. Go on, sit in meditation before you lay down.
Why you say that?
Because that's going to help emphasize the energy on a collective. That where there is no radiation so much being used on you if you have gotten up in the middle of the night, as it is in the beginning of the day. There's all types of wiring going on back and forth that causes us, to get a short circuit that we can't communicate to the ancestors as strong as we would want it. So now, if you do get up in the middle of the night, you use the restroom, you get ready to go lay back down, this would be a great time to do it. You know what I mean? Go on, meditate a little bit, and again, see if you can get to that 10, 15, 30 minute. You say, okay, all right, look, I did it. So go on, lay back down. You can find that, like my brother do, he do like 3 to 5 times. I don't know, he might do 5 times. You do 5 times, right, Ross?
Ross, you do 5 times? I don't think so.
Well, 3 to 5 times is still a way of you tapping in. And that means even if you had to do 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes, or 10 minutes here, 10 minutes, you can figure out how to give yourself, just like how we said, taking the little naps, the power naps.
Yeah.
I know you've done that before, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the same way you having a spiritual meditation. So the same way is, the major thing about it is you got you got gamma, you got beta, you got alpha, you got theta, and you got delta. Those are your 5 brain waves. And being that those all need time, you might have got up, first thing you did was touch this phone. That's your gamma.
As soon as you woke up.
Yep, as soon as you woke up. So he didn't give you a chance to get to theta, even though you laid down and you supposed to came right out of theta. So now it's the whole idea, how do you utilize that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how often do you read a book?
You asking me? Shoot,
Yeah.
I just finished this one book by Malachi York. And it's crazy because this is my 3rd book I didn't finish this year. I feel proud of myself. It's been a minute.
Now that's good because you were able to touch into your beta state.
Yeah.
Your beta to your alpha state. Your beta to your alpha state. Most people say alpha is the bomb. Yet they use alpha before they even talk about beta. Beta is where it's still radical. Even though alpha can be the bomb, alpha is the connection to how you can be reading, and then you feel like man, my eyes feel a little drowsy. I can go to sleep right now. You actually
Yeah.
calming the nerves in the body. You actually calming the nerves in the body. So that means you're actually doing the work that's needed and necessary for your body to be at ease when it comes to laying down at night, so that your body won't be all restless.
Yeah.
And you're saying, dang, I can't lay down. Well, it's only because your physical body was running the whole time, and you never gave your frequencies a chance to do things. Usually we'll find out the central nervous system, the CNS, that central nervous system is at a whack, especially when you're eating, let's say, fire foods, and that's all you ate. You know what I'm saying? You had no water, you just ate nothing but dehydrated foods. That's why it's important to learn, like right now, the year of the dragon, it's a fire dragon. It's going to take a lot of people out who not paying attention to what I'm saying. So it's needed to learn meditation. It's needed to learn how to stretch your body a cat even stretches its body before it starts moving.
Right.
You ever notice that? A cat be stretching his tail off. And the snake, they be stretching too. I seen all type of animals in my notion, from a grasshopper, cricket, turtle. They all do some kind of stretch. I'm like, wow. And then you look up, like in Tao, they show you a bear stance, or they show you a crane stance, or they show you a tiger stance, because they all basically do some form of a yoga meditation without calling it that. It's just, that's what they do when they stretch.
Let's
Form of that.
I want to get into when Allah was talking to Muhammad, when he got the message, was it through, I know it wasn't through prayer, so was it like through meditation, or how did he get the message delivered to him? Because I'm hearing like Allah is like extraterrestrial. Let's keep it a band. Like Al-Razak. That, you know what I'm saying?
That's just like saying man in the universe, right? And man is at one with the universe. Because just like what I was saying about your arms, your leg, your arms, your head, the Allah is arm, leg, arm, head. Your 5 indicators are going to have that 7th awakening. Once your 7th awakening happens, it's like an illusion, yet no delusion in it. You know what I'm saying? You actually are feeling the spirituality versus just the religional side of it. Now, we can say Mohammedanism, yet not everybody's in that same accordance of Mohammedanism. Not everybody's in the same accordance of the religion in itself. You just find out that the practical side of it versus practice side pops in. Your intuition kicks in stronger. That's how we would say it's not just, oh, I heard the spirit talking to me. Yeah, you can hear the spirit talking to you right now. The phone ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Spirit is the first level of it. There's spirit and then there's spiritual. If you're able to get the 7 senses applied in there, the who, what, when, where, why, how, when, these are the 6 as what we look at it, even let's say into the religional aspect. We found it through, the levels of yin and yang in Tao, or in Tai Chi, or this, like, okay, so world religion is Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, Mohammedanism, Christianity, Judaism. These are all the basically knowing of isms that unmistakably, though, there's a synchronicity out of all of them. You know what I'm saying? And that's the respective religious communities that we feel that we can connect to. Like, if the Most High is there to talk to you in any way, shape, and how, is going to answer all 6 of those questions that you basically got. The quest of ions is the Asors, and we say answers.
Asor.
which they say usir. So user, the light. Whenever you go into that light, is this basically you having an awakening. That's why those things became that. It's basically the golden elixir.
The golden elixir.
Yeah. Forever young. No matter how old you are, you're gonna feel forever young with that. That's why it wasn't like a cocky thing. It wasn't a now I'm gonna overcome because I got the message. Now you talking about you was the Messiah when it's really you were just part of the message, being a connection to the messenger. You know what I'm saying? So they do a lot of the Eastern and not knowing the Western not knowing the Eastern. They both have to match up. They both have to match up in order for it to be unrested energy. And it's basically political once it becomes, how someone would say, oh, well, this is because of Judaism, or this is because of Buddhism, or this is because of Mohammedanism. It doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
We don't have a name. We just happen to name it. So and that was like the other part about what I was saying about talismans. The talismans is another form of how you have a spiritual guide. A spiritual guide can be like an earth angel. And even with Buddhists that's walking around, they don't have to say join Buddhism in order for you to be one. Nah, they just basically showing the enlightenment. And then on top of that, if you really know about the story about Buddhism, Buddhism started after Buddha died. So that means the Buddha that was speaking, he didn't say, join me or die, or join me or you're not gonna be one of you know what I'm saying? It was never like that. So it showed how some people are meek and humble in the presence of others. And once that come out, that's again, is your heart into it, is your head into it, is your hips into it, or your fires, and it's not poison, you know what I mean? And it's another indication what we call samsara. Samsara would be a never-ending beginning. And you're gonna constantly feel that. You ever get golden goosebumps? I call them golden goosebumps. That cold chill on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the indication of how your heart got fillers, just like how your neck got fillers. And so, like, something's heavy on your heart, you feel it. You know what I'm saying? The first sense is feelings. You know what I'm saying? I got that from my sensei. When we got into the mental art, we was explaining to each other how through facilitation, we don't teach one another, we facilitate. We learn like one-on-one off of each other. Yet, is you already knowing what to look for. That's why that conversation that you brought up is that being, Muhammad knew what to look for in Allah. Like I just went to a page that says Heart of Heaven. So you know about that. That's basically like the essence of life, the essence and life. And then there's another one, Light of Heaven. So the light again is through darkness.
Talk to him.
Yeah. My brother said, if you want a vacation, go on the dark side of the moon. I said, dang. Go to the dark side of the moon, good. But it was like, there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, embrace your shadow. You might not have embraced your shadow. You might have been scared or afraid of it, or talk junk because you saw somebody else's shadow. The only problem with that is, just like the sun go high up in the air, right? Or during spring and summertime. So it gives you more sunlight, right? Right?
Yeah.
So that also means that your shadow is small. So now, if the sun is closer, that means your shadow is big now. So it wouldn't be the idea that if your shadow is big now, is it a bad thing? It's the idea that how do you balance that when you got a bigger shadow? You know what I mean? How do you feel like If you might need a more recharge, or at the same time, you might learn how to work more of your heat. You know what I mean? Because the sunlight you was using for the heat, now you gotta use yourself for heat. Like you go outside right now, it's cold, but it's cold because the sun is closer to the earth. When the sun was further away, it was the rays that you was feeling that made you feel hot. But now the sun is closer, you don't feel them rays because the sun really close up on you. Now it's the whole idea, just like how we would think of autumn. Most people fail or fall at this time. Most people basically start getting into gluttony and start eating, the things that they get from comfort food versus the food that should be healthy for them. And the things that's going to still keep their body, like I just said with the heat, keep the heat in the body. Because if not, the body start breaking down and you start feeling like, oh, I'm done. I can't do it. You know what I mean? And so you got to actually put the remembrance of your discipline in you. You can't just play fairyland all day and think things going to be just okay in the okay corral kind of thing. You got to actually start putting the footwork that's, because if you think about it, military is with Army, Navy, Marine, Navy SEAL. They got different branches. Your body got these same different branches. They just didn't call it those things.
Yeah.
So now with the idea of how do you get even with your body? How do you become a ruler of your own rules? Because you could change them, right?
Right.
You can
always change them.
You can eat good in the springtime, but then eat terrible in the winter. So you got to come up with some rules of your discipline. That's why the Last Supper was before harvest season. They letting you know, this is where y'all be falling off at. This is where y'all start eating all the holiday stuff and don't work out and start going into rituals that ain't yours. Like you picking up stuff from the western side of the continent, you didn't even look at the eastern side. That's what I was saying about the shadow. If the shadow's on one side of you, and then the shadow up on the other side of you, like the snakes, which side are you really gonna be on? You a pole in between, so how you gonna keep, your balance?
Right. How you gonna keep it, man?
Yeah.
You gotta stay on it.
Because we find out, most people say, oh, I'm bipolar. What does that really mean?
Something's off.
And you're accepting the fact that you'll take two-sided self when there's really a three-sided self. Religion only shows two sides, a good and a bad. Once you come out of religion, you see three sides. You can't cross the street without seeing the middle. And if you do cross the street, you gonna stop in the middle or you gonna keep it moving?
Right.
This is where you find out three can become four. There's a left and a right. You on that corner. That's 1, 2, 3. You get in the middle of it. Now you're going past that. There's the 5. This is how you find out enlightenment comes from every shape, every triangle. Every shape, every number. Because it's not just one time you do it. It might be 3 times, it might be 5 times. But yet, as these numbers become shapes, you're getting more of, like, let's say a triangle. I can make a triangle, one triangle, and it's 120 degrees. But now I put 2 triangles together, that's 240. But if I put 3 triangles together, that's 360. So I need at least 3 to 4 triangles to make a square. You know what I'm saying? The 360 is one thing, but if I can make a square and come back out of it, that's a 361. I don't have to have a square, a triangle, and a circle. I want to be able to come into a cipher of them, all 3 of them, the square, the triangle. If I think about my head is a cardinal way of thinking. My heart is a fixed way of thinking, and in my hips is the circle. It's the mutal way of thinking. All of these thinkers that think this way are having a parallel change when the season pops up. Now, when they say they're bipolar, that's only saying they attached to the moon and not the sun, or attached to the sun and not the moon. But then as soon as the moon switch up, oh, I'm bipolar. you using yourself from disciplining yourself. Just like to say, would you say that? When you're saying you're not perfect, you're excluding yourself to what perfect is. When you have to look at your imperfections in order to say what's perfect in front of you in your life. Once you know that you saw the imperfect thing, you reach for perfection. That's why you're perfect. But if you say I'm not perfect, that's like saying I'm not willing to take a chance, or I'm not willing to be optimistic about this because I'm already being pessimistic. All I saw was a positive and a negative. Well, I'm not positive, so I gotta be negative. I gotta be. I know it ain't gonna work. I just know it ain't gonna work. But this is the whole idea of putting try, T-R-I, right, is a trinity, and changed it to T-R-Y. When Y is a masculine chromosome, but they put it as T-R-Y to be a spell, book of spells. And that's an actual book, bro. They put a book out to have us try and do things, try spells, so that it will be lesser of the I can averagely make it. This is going to be less than making it. Oh, I tried, but then you use T-R-I-E-D, which is the past tense word. That's what I was saying earlier about Rastas don't use these words to make them present. They want to stay present as much as possible. It's like Buddha. Buddha speak of clairvoyance, clairsentient, omnipresent, omnipotent, because they're still showing how it's one of those things. However, to see it in the near future, you got to have a better approach about this. A better outlook. That's where the like my brother, it is 4 noble truths you got, right? There's 4 noble truths, and in that there's what we look at, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha would be like you want to be a constant upliftment towards the people. And the Buddha be your, like, basically your first jewel on how do you learn it? How do you start? How do you become awake to these things? And the Dharma would be like basically learning your sutras, and how the mudras, like what's revealing you the truth. And how do you see it as the upholding of it and its own responsibility behind it is basically the Sangha. And the Sangha would be your happiness. What makes you happy? You know what I'm saying? And usually no one can make you happy. That's just something that's within you.
That definitely is, bro.
That's right. The person is saying it right there.
Yeah.
Everybody's perfect in their own way. Absolutely. I go by
that.
that. So you have basically another way of looking at the outlook without having to say, well, I just give up. I ain't gonna make it. Yeah, like, how do you get to the sage of yourself? You know what I'm saying? You gotta get to the sage of yourself, and that's through enlightenment. You know, the older you get, some of us find out that we're basically either getting into the truths of ourselves, or we're using what, like, most people end up having is they call it the blind faith. You know,
right?
But you want to avoid that blind faith concept. The 4 truths in the self is first being a noble to yourself, being able to speak of the condition, right? Once you're able to speak of the condition, you want to do a prognosis of it. So it's like you analyzing it. Maybe you can find an alternative for it, right? And then there's your prescription. There's your cure. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're going to look for, how to cure yourself from that. And then that's where the Dharma, your truth, is going to be at, from the reflection. How do you use it as medicine for not only you, on for the next being? Because somebody else might be able to use that same, you know what I mean? That same method. And that would be like you giving off the wisdom. Because you can gain knowledge, but once you keep it to yourself, it's like saying you selfish. You don't want to be like that. It's like the three, I was talking about the three fires, right? It's called greed, right? You got hatred and delusion. And why would it be those three? Because in greed, we might have desires, and you might be thirsty for it or craving for it. That's why you got to figure out how to balance that. And in the hatred, you might have aggression towards someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or creating an aversion of them.
Israel.
You know what I mean? And then in the delusion, it just might be ignorance. You might be confused by that being. And just because you didn't learn that state of mind, which they call dukkha is like the bad of self, the negative of self. You know, what I see in myself, I might see it in someone else, right? And because I see it in someone else, I say, oh, I don't like that person because they doing what I don't like. But you're not going to say they doing what I don't like. You're going to say they doing something that I wouldn't do or something like that.
Type
so
shit.
Like, yeah, say it again.
Nah, go ahead.
So it's like saying I'm not gonna go the route that you're going. But these are your sensory experiences. So it's like better to learn the source of the desire and what's clouding your truth. You know what I mean? Once you do that, that's kind of like basically you getting into the idea of what is your third truth. Because you got to be mindful, right? You got to have discernment, that is knowing whether an action will be skillful or unskillful. Then you got to have persistence. You got to know what the rapture is. You got to know about serenity. And then, of course, concentration. And then the equanimity. So you want to know, in the equal side of yourself, is it that you're influenced by the other side? Or, you know what I mean, that's your own side that you say you equate yourself to? Because we all looking for nirvana. We all looking for nirvana.
Speak on nirvana, man.
Say it again?
Yeah, speak more on nirvana.
Yeah, nirvana would be the fifth dimension that the AI don't got. The fifth dimension that, you know what I'm saying? Have you ever seen the five elements? The fifth element. Yeah, the fifth element. It was basically showing you music was this fifth element, that this blue creature, basically having blue on, the third eye, it was like an octopus. She looked like an octopus. And she didn't have the language, like you were just saying about Allah. Allah don't have to speak to you with the words you speak with.
Right.
It could be the leaves blowing and you start actually hearing what it's saying to you, or looking at it and it's saying something to you. Birds are speaking to you. There probably was not one bird in the whole tree of anything. And then all of a sudden you start, chanting like you chant. And then the birds start chanting with you. You see what I'm saying?
Type, yeah.
And this will help we call it the eightfold path. And in the eightfold path, you have a wise view. You have a wise way of resolving. You have a wise way of your speech. You have a wise way of your actions. You have a wise way of your livelihood. You have a wise way of your effort. You have a wise way of your mindfulness. And then you have a wise way of your concentration. And once you hit them 8, you run into your wisdom, which they call prajna. And then you got your morality, which is your sila. And then you have your meditation, which is your samadhi. These are all words that I'm like, shoot, I ain't got the other part to it, but I know what meditation is. I know morality. I know wisdom. And the more I actually got into it, the more I'm seeing it now, how the mindfulness and the concentration and don't talk bad on others, you know what I mean? Like,
no gossiping type shit.
Yeah, because you'll find out this one here. Selfless desire, ill will, hatred. I meant selfish desires, ill will, hatred, violence, the result of lack of wisdom. All this starts to kick in. You know what I mean? You be like, wait a minute, what? Then you start to feel like that. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and then there's the extra, the gain, the loss, the status, the disrepute, the blame, the praise, the pleasure, the pain. Those are hooks. They're gonna always know how to hook you in because you're still playing on the pole side. You know what I mean? Like, it was good until this happened. It was good till that happened. And you got to know that there's a fold to all of these things. And once you see that, you know what I'm saying, you're learning these things, it becomes a process to this day-to-day thing. You're gonna go through it.
Fact.
And if you just get into your action is don't steal. Taking of life, human and otherwise. Destruction of personal property or peacefulness. You could be destruction towards somebody's peace and wouldn't even know it. So it's the idea of maybe don't speak so much of what your opinions are. You know what I mean? Overindulging. You could do that too. Like, you might drink too much, or you might smoke too much. You know what I'm saying? So you'd be like, dang, I'm in this state of intoxicational feeling. When you don't want to be there, if you know about it, then you had to keep the idea of, just like this one is saying, sexual responsibility, adultery, prostitution, abstaining, using of alcohol, the recreational drugs in harmful ways. We done got to a point that once our parents said, I raised you, I brought you in this house, and then you be like, you know, it's under my rules, it's my house, my rules, and you be like, well, shoot, I'm out. And now you left, but now you didn't put in the stuff that be needed to keep in after you left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that eightfold path is self-transformation, intellectual.
Self-transformation.
Yeah, intellectual, emotional, moral reconstructing, reorientation. Are you into selflessness? What is the objective towards a horizon of possibilities and opportunities of fulfillment? Like, you don't want to just be like, I'm action, when you don't know what your livelihood is towards your action.
Right.
You got to examine your occupation. You got to work on your time, your energy, the effort of practicing peacefulness, kindness, and not just for yourself, but for the world.
For the world, Craig.
Yeah, that's purpose, bro. Once you get that, you got effort, you got mindfulness, you got concentration. And that comes from all mental disciplines, being direct and relate to your meditation practices. So just like what we were saying earlier about getting up, using the restroom, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to shortcut nothing. Because the moment you start shortcutting it, you ain't really putting that, you know what I mean, the effort in.
Effort.
So just do it real time for yourself, test it out, and do it from moment by moment. Don't just be like second by second.
Type shit.
Work on your samadhi, which is your concentration. Work on that. Work on how long do you meditate on your concentration. Once you start doing that, there's the breath. How do you breathe through it? How do you use that breath so your third element kicks in, which is your meditation side? You know, the more you meditate, the more happiness you're gonna have, the more wisdom you're gonna gain. You know, don't destroy life, don't steal, do not commit sexual misconduct, do not lie, and do not become intoxicated to yourself. Because really, for real, that body you got is temporary.
Yeah.
On this physical plane.
Temporary like mud.
Yeah. So I would just say that if you're living in the nature that you should be, it's not by just looking on the outside. You want to look within yourself. You know? Do not destroy life like it's being said. Because you also are life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I gave out enough.
Definitely,
But just
man.
realize this: rebirth is you not just coming back to the earth, is you taking a part of what you left from and putting it towards this next becoming. That's just like the fire from another candle. You know what I mean? You might have lit this candle up, but to light the other candle up, taking that candle and lighting it is not saying it's coming from this candle, but it's coming from the flame of that candle. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's spiritual.
Spiritual
we
can
can
get,
pass on
man.
all this, we can pass on all this information. Is it obtainable?
Is it obtainable?
Yeah.
Man, I think we covered it all today, man. Especially with the goddess energy, bringing that back to the forefront with everything, man. Especially in these times. Yeah, this is a time of unity. This is like where we need to all, as a collective, get back to knowing one, the law of one, and just really gather even our information, what we take in, what we process in the day to day, like really like connect with each other on a basis to where we can really become something bigger than what we is right now. And we gotta understand that everything that's going on right now is in the power of our own hands type shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna come all towards like, is we gonna step up and change something and actually do the shit and not just keep going out here protesting and just thinking that's just gonna change it. It's really inner work within the inner tribe, spread out, we might survive. You feel me? Like, so it's like we gotta go about things differently, man. And what we doing right here alone and having these conversations is the start, and it's just all on bringing it all in full circle with everybody that we were trying to reach out. And I appreciate the 6 people that's in here right now that's like listening, tapping in. Y'all vibed out, yeah. Let's keep it up. We're gonna do more of this, you know what I'm saying, weekly, you know what I'm saying, get back in the groove, doing the podcast more, still doing interviews with other people and stuff like that, but I'm definitely, you know how we get Eternal, when it's time to give out them downloads, we just gonna do it, like where we at, you know what I'm saying, so we in those times, yo, we in them times, so I appreciate you again. You know what I'm saying? Anything new, anything you want to shout out, you know what I'm saying, your information and all that.
Okay, one more thing, my head was popping in this upload on the Twa people. Twa people is, to a lot of us that might not know, they're the pygmies, or the smaller people, the 3 feet and smaller. That's one indication of learning your storyline. The other storyline is your GYANTS, giants. The island of Maui, that was an actual being. Look at it and look at it again from a Google map. You'll see that it's an actual being. It's a big body, and they hit it in the heart, in the head, and in the hip. They actually hit it in the 3 areas of where the fires are, just like what we were talking about. So there's ways to tap into, not only if you're seeing it from, because that was a blue beam rays that they use to shoot down on basically not Earth itself, but the people that have basically passed away as an Earth piece. So if you look at Africa, Mud Fossils University, they show you the dragon itself too, and how they basically slain the dragon a long time ago, but they put it in so many storylines. Was it King George slaying the dragon? All these things about
Watch the Throne. Not Watch the Throne, but Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. There's a cartoon called Raya, R-A-Y-A. She's showing how a woman is the dragon. So there's that. Like I said about Mami Wata, there's a snake. If you look her up, she's the same symbol of Starbucks. what they did was they gave you the octopus, the same one that Uriel and Mermaid. They made it a snake. The same connection as the octopus. So Starbucks, you're going in between the womb.
Starbucks.
Yeah. So they're using your science. I'm just basically showing you how to get back to your own science. I'm not spooking you or anything. It's just it's best to know that that's your stuff and not theirs. And that's where they got it from. And then there's the 13 moons. Learning that will help out as well, because we're in the existing moon cycle right now. Actually, we're on to the 14th, 16th, might be the 17th day of the existing moon cycle. When you look that up, look for the small numbers up there and it'll tell you what day it is right now that's fitting in that actual chart. They actually have a color grid up there, and they also have, just like I Ching, they give you the actual symbols. Now, the Mayan calendar is based off of that same thing. That's why they were talking about 2011, it was the end of the world, when it was basically saying the end of their world. And now it's our world happening right now. And we got to see how we're in that. If you can, the 12 months is one thing, but the 13 moons is how you find out that we had a 13th zodiac. Now, how all this work out, look up the symbol of the 13th zodiac. It's going to be a letter U, right? And they're going to have a wave going up and down. Like I was talking about the sine and the wave, signal wave. They're going to have an up and down wave, and they're going to have a dot on one and a dot on the other. That one spot is going to be the down part, and the other spot is going to be the up part. And that's basically the yin-yang. We knew this yin-yang long time ago because there were certain people that learned kung fu versus just learn karate. And that's why it was good for us that didn't go in through a temple or go in through a schooling to see it on the Eastern side, because they westernized the Eastern. And that's how you'll find out there's truths in everything. We just gotta now put the pieces and the puzzles together. So again, Mami Wata is known as Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is basically your 13th zodiac. And the reason why I had to bring that up is because the story about Aset. If you look at Hocus Pocus, the beginning of Hocus Pocus, they're showing you the natal chart. And the way they're showing you the natal chart, they're showing you through Scorpio. And I think they ended with Taurus on the other end. But they didn't show you the rest of the zodiacs because their main thing is those two zodiacs, the Scorpio and the Taurus. Why? Because they're holistically connected. Taurus is about the Bible, and Scorpio is about the ending of its cycle in the Quran. So you're learning that Scorpion King, any of those movies are basically talking to you. You just gotta look at it again and look at it from a third person party, not two people, third person. So look at it from, there's a higher being talking through that movie, and we gotta pull those higher, like how Muhammad listened to Allah. There's some connection here that we are the avatar, learning from the surrogates, but they were supposed to be holding this information, yet it was not to just attain it. It was really an enlightenment that you still have and you can still gravitate to. So any old movies that you recommend, send it to me. I don't mind that. I like it. I like going into that myself, going into it, because I noticed that the more we go into the older movies, the more we find the appreciation, like Thundercats, The Lord of Omens, Give Me Sight Beyond Sight. You know what I'm saying? Silverhawks, Hanna-Barbera, Flintstones even has some stuff. The Jetsons.
Yeah, they got some stuff all in that shit.
Yeah, man. I mean, you could tap in if you see it. Johnny Quest. You know what I mean? They had Hajj. Hajj is known as the Mecca, and he's wearing a head wrap on his head. So they was giving us stuff long time ago, but we were thinking he might have been, he's a servant to these, to these people, but he's not. He's actually their intelligence, and they're just basically utilizing him on that level.
Type.
And so we gotta also know that we're not that type of people that just gonna get drained by, by the oppressor. Look for the Look for that What's that movie? Dr. Fate. Is Dr. Fate, and it's Adam, Black Adam. Look at Black Adam again, and look at Dr. Fate. He has the Ankh on him.
Yeah.
There's a couple other sitcoms even. They be rocking that Ankh. So remind yourself what the Ankh represents. They call it the Crux Asante. The Crux Asante.
Crux Asante.
Trux Asante. Asanta or E. But looking these things up will help give you because what it is knowledge, and the knowledge is your power, and no one can take that from you once you know it. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk, man.
I give thanks, man. I give thanks for you even having this up here so that we can give our people our time that's been missing in our melanin.
Yeah, man.
Because I noticed the fact that when we're with our mom or with our dad, they gotten so busy that even our dad might be outside a lot, that when he come inside, he's outside thoughts. Or our mom, she been inside a lot, that she has inside thoughts and not knowing about the outside world. And I had two people almost in an argument because one, the brother was like saying women should read, and then the woman was like, I'm not supposed to read. And then I'm like, well, technically she's right, because it's your what they call it, the A in your body. Like everyone has a certain amount of vitamins that they basically get. Her A mineral will be deficient after a while if she reads too much. So we have to find out how to give her the story back. And what we end up finding out is it end up being in movies, it end up being in music, it end up being in other things. So that's why her dimension is stronger than the average man. Ours is through the entertainment. That's what causes us want to even look at movies. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna watch no boring soap opera. However, a sister could watch a boring soap opera and it's not boring to her. And they're like, why? Because it probably is emotion, and we're not catching on because we might not be all that emotional. We like to see some action. So just, be mindful how to work with that, how to balance it. If you find out a good movie that she might like, don't let it be a gory movie, because that's still not going to turn her into the higher being that's there. Oh, we said about Sekhmet. Sekhmet was influenced by alcohol. She actually was the protector of her child, and she would do anything for her child. Now what happened is that they figured, hey, I gotta get her to not protect her child, so they caused her to get into intoxication, which caused her to lose the focus and get cloudy judgments. So if you ever notice, some of us as men, we get in fights with our women during the full moon or during the new moon, and that'll be more than likely the time that she's been drinking. So if you notice that that's drinking going on, be less to have a fight, be more into the meditation, bring sound bowls in. If you don't have any sound bowls, play the frequencies like you're hearing in the background.
Do you libations?
Yes, I am. Affirmation libations. Because you do libations, you connect yourself, connect to your family, and connect to the ancestors. Now, what I usually end up doing is near the holidays, do it before the eve, or do it on the eve. When you have it on that day, sometimes don't go the way you expect. So just don't do it as much, but do it enough before it gets there. Because what we finding out right now in this day and age, people been using crumpets and calling it Christmas. And they think it's cool when it's not. By the time you find out, there's mullock, M-U-L-O-C-K, which is them giving their children to this animal that's basically eating your child, or
Mm-hmm.
basically using your child for perversion.
Yeah.
And so
There's
the
pictures.
Western had perverted a lot of our teachings. And so if we've been a part of that perversion, it's not their fault anymore. It's us and our ignorance towards, well, I want to do it because my parents did it. But if your parents never knew about what we're speaking of now, look up the 13 holidays based on sacrifice. And now you can see that I'm not lying. Just go into your own truth. Find out where you keep having these reoccurring issues. Mine usually happens in October. I corrected that this year. I'm not having them like I did. And I've been actually on those rituals, staying on it. If you got a day off, start putting your day off to doing rituals. If you have a day off, connect back to your mom and your dad or your family. And not to the point where you're judging them. Just a point to where you can finally get that conversation that you wanted, and then walk away. Don't get them in an argument. Just get them into the enlightenment side.
Facts, bro. Again, man, I appreciate you eating. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna tap in with y'all again, man. This is Third Eye 5 on the road, man. Y'all be easy, man.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Blessings, bro.
Shade.